Kurama, end of an era. So yeah, a lot of things have happened. A lot of good things and a lot of not so good things. For those who keep up with the manga or perhaps watch the Japanese subs on some streaming sites, you know exactly what I mean. However, I do know that not everyone knows about this, as many prefer to watch the anime and only have access to what's released weekly in English, which hasn't reached this point yet. And so, for those people, I will give you a spoiler warning. We're about to talk about some very sensitive subjects to the Boruto series, so if you haven't already been spoiled, it's advised that you click away until a later date. With that out of the way, we can begin. But first, welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, we publish a new video every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. The Amagi's reach stretches beyond just this channel, so if you're a fan of us, please consider subscribing to our other channels and following us on all of our social media. Help us reach our goal of passing 100,000 followers on all of our accounts by the end of the year. For anyone who's read Chapter 55 of Boruto, it was a shock. We had prepared for the worst, but were surprised at what happened in the end. We had believed that we would lose Naruto. That had been a huge rumor from the very start of the Boruto manga series, and so when the battle with Ishiki Otsutsuki began to reach its climax and Baryon mode was in full effect, we all began to think who might become the 8th Hokage. Would Kakashi return from the shadows, or would Sasuke step forward? That was what we were thinking. But the death of Kurama, or Kurama for English dubs, only was something unexpected. I'd like to talk about the death of this iconic character, but before that, we need to place some context. And so, I will first talk about this beloved character who most of us have known since our early childhood, and remember the path that led to this moment. Like all tales, the Nine Tails has its beginnings. A long time earlier from even the start of the Naruto series, the people lived in a state of endless war. The divine tree was planted, the tree was revered as a deity by the people, and it produced a single fruit once every 1,000 years. It was during one of these times that Kaguya Otsutsuki devoured the fruit, though it had been forbidden, and used the strength it granted to end the wars that plagued the lands. It was later that she bore two sons, twins. She named them Hagoromo and Hamura. These two were the first people to be born with chakra. However, Kaguya believed that the chakra that they were born with was rightfully hers, and so a battle ensued between Kaguya and her two sons, which resulted in her merging with the divine tree and becoming the Ten Tails. With his brother by his side, Hagoromo pulled the chakra from the Ten Tails and then used his 6 paths, Chibaku Tensei, to seal its husk away into what would later become the moon. Eventually, Hamura, the originator of the Hyuga clan, decided to go to the moon to secure the statue, while Hagoromo remained on Earth, the Ten Tails' new Jinchuriki. He later bore 2 sons, Indra and Ashura, both of which would become the originators of the Uchiha and Senju clans respectively. Coming toward the end of his life, Hagoromo knew that upon his demise, the Ten Tails' chakra would return to the husk on the moon and reform the Ten Tails. And so he took some inspiration from his son, Ashura, and used his creation of all things ability to split the chakra of the Ten Tails into 9 separate beings, each one he named. The aging sage then told them that one day they would be reunited in a way different from how they were, and that someone would appear to save them. From there, they were to be freed, the villages even building temples to house and protect them. However, as time passed, the people forgot what it was that Hagoromo had wanted, using the chakra he gave them to create ninjutsu, a weapon of war. They then further sought each of the tail beasts for use in war. From here, the beasts were used. I could go on how every beast was used, but let's not forget that we're talking about one specific tailed beast, the Nine Tails, Kurama. From this point on, Kurama was hunted by shinobi who sought to control him, the Gold and Silver brothers, Madara Uchiha, who used his Sharingan to control him, and was eventually defeated by Hashirama Senju, who later sealed the Nine Tails into his wife, Mito Uzumaki. Kurama had been viewed at first as a monster, and then as a weapon, and now he was caged in the body of one of those who had tried to hunt him. His anger boiled, and his resentment metamorphosized into a deep, burning hatred. For years, Mito held Kurama within her body until the end of her life drew near, in which she then gave the beast over to another of her clan, a young woman named Kushina Uzumaki. Kushina also held Kurama for many years of her life, until she became pregnant with her and Minato's child. Knowing that the seal would weaken during delivery, Minato decided to hide his wife in a safe location to have the seal reinforced as the baby was being born. However, another knew of this, and decided to plot his retrieval of the Nine Tails during the birth of the child. A masked man later revealed to be Obito Uchiha. Minato's former student attacked and managed to free Kurama and began to use him to destroy the village hidden in the leaves, an attack which robbed Iroka Umino of his parents. Once more under the influence of the Sharingan's Genjutsu, Kurama was on a rampage. After a battle, Minato managed to defeat Obito, freeing Kurama from his control. However, Kurama still bore hatred for those who had used him and trapped him. He tried to kill Minato and Kushina, of which he mostly succeeded, but not before Minato proceeded to use the dead demon consuming seal to rip Kurama's chakra out, sealing half within himself and the other half within Naruto. Kushina lamented this, the loss of her husband, the orphaning of her child, and the curse of bearing such a powerful being so full of hate. This was the first experience Kurama ever had with the legendary ninja, who would later change his view of humanity and prove to be something Kurama truly needed: a friend. For years, Naruto went without even knowing he was a Jinchuriki. Everyone in the village knew it and hated him for it. They were barred from telling him due to an order by 3rd Hokage Hiruzen, who had come out of retirement to replace Minato after his untimely death. Naruto always wondered why he was hated and avoided, why he had to be alone. It wasn't until Mizuki spilled the beans that Naruto came to find out. Naruto's first use of Kurama's energy was on what would later be named the Naruto Bridge in the village hidden in the mist, over the apparent death of Sasuke, who was later shown to have survived. Naruto eventually made use of Kurama's power during the Chunin exams, where it was used to fend off an attack by Orochimaru, defending Sasuke. Jiraiya later taught Naruto about the Nine Tails' power, and eventually pushed him from a cliff to spur him to activate it. Naruto entered his own subconscious, and met with the tailed beast for the first time. Kurama was pleased that Naruto finally came to know his presence, and believed he could spur Naruto to use more of its power, knowing that if he used enough, the seal would weaken and eventually break. After this, Naruto fought against Gaara, a genin from the village hidden in the sand, who held within him Shukaku, the One Tail. Using his power, his love for his friends and village, and his ability to understand what Gaara was going through, he forced Gaara to take another look at his views on life, which eventually changed Gaara for the better. Later, during the search for Tsunade, Kabuto severed the heart muscles controlling Naruto's blood flow, and also severed his chakra pathways, which stopped Kurama from healing its host. As Naruto began to die, Kurama noted that he could feel his own power failing, and noticed things were growing dark. Fortunately, Naruto was able to survive, as did Kurama, due to the medical ninjutsu of Lady Tsunade, who after this became the 5th Hokage of the Hidden Leaf. Later, when on the Sasuke recovery mission, Naruto and Sasuke faced off, resulting in Naruto receiving a mortal wound. Once more, Kurama gave Naruto some of his chakra in hopes of saving its own skin, which resulted in Naruto assuming his initial Jinchuriki form. Jiraiya after this would begin to teach Naruto how to better control the tailed beast's power, and through a tweak of the seal, allowed for a better unleashing of power. Kurama quickly took advantage of this to further mock Naruto, allowing him to take more tailed beast chakra, which allowed Naruto to enter a 4-tailed Jinchuriki form that Kurama used to rampage. Jiraiya once more sealed the fox into Naruto, though Jiraiya was greatly injured. During the Kazekage rescue mission, it was revealed that Gaara had died after having Shukaku stolen from him by the Akatsuki. The anger and sorrow of this caused Naruto to lose control and enter his 2-tailed form. This also was later suppressed by a sealing tag provided by Jiraiya. In a battle against Orochimaru, Naruto found that his 3-tailed form was not enough, and Kurama convinced Naruto to enter the 4-tailed state, which Naruto did, eventually losing control and attacking friend and foe alike. Kurama had been so often offering excessive power to Naruto because it knew that the constant use of power would weaken the seal and eventually allow it to escape. However, when Naruto next met with Sasuke in battle, Kurama offered power, which Naruto firmly denied. Kurama began to mock Naruto and tell him that he was nothing without the tailed beast's power, and then asked Naruto to completely remove the seal so he can grant Naruto his full strength. That's grant with quotation marks because he was manipulating. Naruto further denied him, and before it can go any further, Sasuke entered Naruto's subconscious with his Sharingan and suppressed the tailed beast's power. Both angry and impressed, he likened Sasuke to Madara and then warned Sasuke not to kill Naruto, elsewise he might come to regret it. During Pain's assault on the Hidden Leaf, Naruto assumed that Hinata was dead after watching Pain strike her down. Kurama then tempted Naruto further to remove the seal so he can destroy everything causing Naruto pain, allowing Naruto to reach his 8-tailed Jinchuriki form. Kurama had nearly convinced Naruto to completely remove the seal. However, before he could, Kurama's old enemy, Minato Namikaze, appeared in Naruto's subconscious, having sealed some of his chakra into Naruto just for such a case. This angered Kurama horribly, and Kurama dared Minato to come closer so he could kill the dead Hokage. However, instead, Minato returned the seal to its prior strength. Hoping to later control Kurama, Naruto traveled to meet Killer Bee, a shinobi and Jinchuriki from the village hidden in the clouds. Eventually earning Killer Bee's trust, Killer Bee showed him to a waterfall where he would face the darkness in his own heart. After all, Naruto could scarcely deal with the darkness in Sasuke's and Kurama's hearts if he couldn't deal with his own. He proceeded to try to deal with his dark counterpart, which represented resentment he still held against people of the Hidden Leaf. Despite having been a hero to them after defeating Pain, he still recalled how they had treated him previously, and that caused resentment in his heart. But in the end, he accepted it as a part of himself, hugging his darker self, which caused a look of confusion on the evil clone. Eventually, it dissipated, and Naruto was allowed into the temple behind, where he found a special room that actually reminded me a lot of Dragon Ball's Room of Spirit and Time. There, with Yamato's help, Killer Bee began to help Naruto. Within his subconscious, Kurama spoke with Naruto, asking him where the real him was, noticing the lack of hatred in Naruto's heart, to which Naruto responded that the real him was right here. Naruto later used the key and removed the seal on Kurama. The tailed beast had been waiting for this chance and came out ready to fight. However, with the help of Killer Bee and Yuki, along with the appearance of his mother Kushina in his subconscious, Naruto managed to strip most of Kurama's chakra and reseal him, leaving Kurama to wonder just what in the world Naruto was. As the Fourth Shinobi World War began, Naruto and Killer Bee, despite orders, rushed to the front lines. Kurama lectured Naruto in anger at having squandered its power in a futile effort to bear the world's hatred and end the war. He then began to tempt Naruto to remove the seal, but Naruto refused it and called Kurama naive, stating that not only would he save the world from hatred, but Sasuke, and even the fox that had killed his parents and caused him such pain in his early life. When Madara had been revived with the Impure World Reincarnation Jutsu, Kurama decided to lend more of its power to Naruto in hopes of stopping the Uchiha who had once controlled it, stating that it would rather help Naruto than be manipulated by the Uchiha again. As the war raged on, Kurama seemed to be coming around a little. While refusing to acknowledge this to any others, he did feign sleep in which he allowed Naruto to freely take its chakra without cost. Yuki later asked Kurama to aid in the fight, but Kurama responded that humans, no matter how they said it, only wanted its power, with the odd exception of Naruto. Kurama watched as Naruto worked to save the tailed beast, and thought back on Naruto's life and his current actions, stating that Naruto of all people should know that his words would not reach the tailed beasts, but only his actions. When Naruto managed to free Son Goku from Obito's control, Kurama was pleased and further offered more chakra to Naruto. Naruto, prior to accepting it, thanked Kurama for its help. Kurama found himself flustered by this, but then offered to meld their two chakra together. Acknowledging Kurama as his teammate, Naruto displayed his trust in Kurama and fully removed the seal on the beast, allowing him to use Kurama's full power. Together, they faced off against the other tailed beasts under Obito's control. Kurama then returned Naruto's trust by taking him deeper into his subconscious, to a place where only trusted Jinchuriki could enter, to which he stated that Obito could not enter. Kurama asked his brethren if Naruto might be the one that Hagoromo told them of so long ago, and they agreed. For the rest of the war, Naruto and Kurama's trust began to bloom, and it appeared that Kurama might just be turning the corner and forsaking his hatred of people, or at least his hatred of Naruto, allowing the young shinobi to fulfill his promise of tackling the hatred in the fox's heart. After the war's end, time continued to pass. The events of Naruto the Last Movie took place, and Naruto and Kurama's relationship had only deepened. They traveled to the moon through a hidden portal to rescue Hinata from Toneri Otsutsuki, the direct descendant of Hamura, who had misunderstood his ancestors' will and was trying to use the moon to destroy the Earth. However, Naruto also managed to peacefully pacify Toneri, who elected to remain on the moon to protect it and the Earth. During the Momoshiki arc of Boruto, Momoshiki and Kinshiki planned to take Yuki and Kurama from their Jinchuriki to create a new divine tree. Naruto resisted and managed to last until the other Kage, Sasuke, and Naruto's son, Boruto, managed to catch up. In the ensuing battle, Momoshiki absorbed his brother Kinshiki and gained a stronger form. He was eventually defeated by the combined efforts of Naruto and his son. However, Momoshiki planted an odd seal, Karma Seal, on Boruto, setting up the former's return. It was later confirmed that a secret underground organization called Kara was plotting to retrieve a vessel named Kawaki that had escaped. Kawaki, after having been captured by Hidden Leaf Ninja, was currently living in the Hokage's home. It was here that it was displayed that even when Naruto slept, Kurama was watching over him, manifesting as a head before Kawaki when the latter was about to sneak out of the house, telling him to just go back to sleep. Despite being literally inseparable, Kurama and Naruto had formed an inseparable bond, with Kurama wanting to only do what was best for Naruto. However, when Koji, a clone of Jiraiya, managed to force the leader of Kara, Jigen, another Otsutsuki clan member who was currently trying to get Kawaki, the bearer of his Karma Seal, back under his control to be resurrected fully, to take his true form in the incompatible body, which resulted in a 3-day span of time before Jigen, now known by his Otsutsuki name Ishiki, would die. Pushing his timetable forward, Ishiki invaded the Hidden Leaf to take Kawaki by force, only to find himself before Naruto, Sasuke, and Boruto. Seeing that they were close to dying and Ishiki was close to taking Kawaki, Kurama convinced Naruto to use a break glass in case of emergency technique known as Baryon Mode, which would make him stronger, but at the cost of lowering his lifespan due to chakra consumption. Kurama did state, however, that if he struck Ishiki with it, it would also lower the Otsutsuki's lifespan. Using this, Naruto's power was bolstered enough to begin to overpower Ishiki. In the end, Naruto's chakra ran out. However, he had managed to lower Ishiki's lifespan from 3 days to less than a few minutes. Ishiki took Naruto hostage and threatened to kill him if Kawaki didn't surrender. Boruto, seeing the end coming, passes out and awakens as Momoshiki's vessel, and Kawaki emerges from hiding and offers to give himself up. Ishiki tried to transfer but was startled to learn that the Kawaki he was talking to was nothing more than a shadow clone. With his last chance gone, Ishiki finally died. As things were cooling down, the battle wasn't yet over, as Boruto, now under Momoshiki's control, came in from behind with a kunai, taking Sasuke from behind, shoving the weapon directly into his Rinnegan. Sasuke, Kawaki, and Momoshiki in Boruto's body continue to fight, with Momoshiki telling Kawaki that, since he was already partly a Tsutsuki, he would feed him to his own Ten Tails to help cultivate it into its final form. Sasuke notices that Momoshiki isn't absorbing any jutsu with the karma like he could, and theorizes that Momoshiki can't risk refilling Boruto's power as Boruto is likely still fighting back. Kawaki then decided to burn himself up. Momoshiki, fearing he may lose his sacrifice for the Ten Tails, decides to absorb the jutsu, which allows Boruto to retake control and snap off his Otsutsuki horn and fully recover his body. Boruto then passes out. After this, Sasuke stands and returns to Naruto's side to check on his friend. Now, I'm sure most of you know where we are now, and if you want a more in-depth history, you could check out the life of Kurama. Having traveled over the history of Kurama and Naruto's friendship, we finally reached the end. We all know what comes next. Within their subconscious, Naruto and Kurama begin to speak and go over their relationship and history together. Naruto spoke, mentioning that he was born with the fox and that dying with him seemed to be a poetic end. However, Kurama burst this bubble by informing Naruto that Naruto wouldn't die, but Kurama himself, as he had burned up all of his own chakra. This seemed to trouble Naruto more than the idea of dying, losing the one he considered to be a brother to him. Kurama told him that he would no longer be able to rely upon his power and would have to figure things out himself. He told him to be careful and not overdo it, elsewise he might see Kurama again a lot sooner than he needed to. With that, the tailed beast was gone, leaving Naruto to reach out for his old friend, only for the hand to be caught by his son Boruto. This moment marked the end of an era. The tailed beast we had all grown up with had died. While the newest generation of fans may not grasp this, we who watched from the beginning almost felt as sad as Naruto did. Despite only being a story set in a fictional universe, it legitimately upset us. For many, they began to ask, what next? Will Kurama come back? What does this mean for Naruto? Well, I believe I know, but most of you won't like this. Some tend to say that Kurama isn't the first tailed beast to die. The three tails, Isobu, had been placed into Rin Nohara and was still in her when she died by Kakashi's hands, but he obviously came back. That is the most common belief, and if you subscribe to it, then that's okay. But I do wish to point out why I think this is wrong. Let's start off by understanding the tailed beasts and what they are. They're also called chakra monsters. They are made predominantly of chakra, and thus can't really be killed. So when a Jinchuriki is killed while harboring a tailed beast, that beast will only die in relative terms. It dies, but it doesn't stay dead, because the chakra isn't lost. It merely recoalesces at a later time. How long this takes is unknown, but they always do. However, there is a difference with what Kurama has done. Kurama didn't die physically with his Jinchuriki. As I said before, tailed beasts are chakra monsters, and Kurama has spent all of his chakra, or more accurately, burned it all up with Baryon mode. Because his chakra is now completely gone, it seems likely that he will not return to life. If I were to say that there were any hope for it, perhaps it would be that Naruto would get a new Nine Tails from a new Ten Tails. And perhaps they could somehow explain that it contains Kurama's consciousness because Naruto still has a bit of Kurama in him, like he does with all of the tailed beasts from when they trusted him in the Fourth Shinobi World War. But other than that, it's doubtful that Kurama will ever return, at least in any real capacity. It's no coincidence that Kurama died the same time that Sasuke lost his Rinnegan. This is more than just a death and loss of an eye. This is a symbol. Kurama was the source, well, I use that term loosely, of Naruto's power, and the Rinnegan was Sasuke's. With the loss of these two things from the two strongest shinobi from the village, it would be more akin to Might Guy's use of the 8th gate. While he survived, he was too weakened to continue his work as a shinobi. The same is happening to Sasuke and Naruto on a smaller level. They're still strong, but not like they once were. This marks the end of the era of Naruto and Sasuke. It needed to happen at some point in time, elsewise they would need to rename the Boruto series Naruto Part 3, Shippuden Boogaloo. This is the passing of the torch. This is the curtain call for the story of Naruto and Sasuke. They'll remain a big part of the story, but now the responsibility of getting stronger has been passed to the next generation. Consider this as Naruto and Sasuke finally passing on the will of fire. The future is now in the hands of Boruto and the rest of the next generation. It's sad to think that we may not see Kurama again, but a lot of the characters have gone that way. Neji went that way, Jiraiya went that way, though we do have Koji now, he's still not the same, and now Kurama. And in spite of this fact, the threat of the Ten Tails has never been stronger. But that's a threat that Boruto will face, not Naruto. This is why it's the end of the era. And we all know that the end of an era marks the beginning of a new one, a passing on of the torch, a passing on of the will of fire. And you know what? I do enjoy that we had Naruto for a little bit before this happened. Honestly, if you started without knowing anything about Naruto, if you just started Boruto, I feel like it would kind of feel the same way as if you were watching Naruto all over again. There's this whole backstory that you don't know because you just started the Naruto series, and there's these super strong people, and then they just don't affect the story anymore because something happens to them. I think that's really cool. It wasn't just an end for Naruto after the Naruto series ended. It kind of teases what's at stake for Boruto. Honestly, I'm really excited now. This is something that needed to happen. Did you enjoy our brief soiree on the life and death of Kurama? Tell us about your experience when you first read about his demise, or watched it. What do you think about it? Should he eventually come back? And if he does, how? And what do you think will happen in the future of Boruto? We're all interested to know your opinions. Feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't, and be sure to ring the bell to be notified when new content drops. Peace out.